Are you sure that this is the stream doom and not the other one?
Christian and Ennis, are you here?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. All right. I guess everyone's now here. So welcome to this round of debate. My name is Masharia. I will be your chair. With me, we have a panel of two, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves before you introduce yourselves too.
Hi, I'm Anakat. My preferred pronouns are he or they.
Hey, Claudia, no preference.
All right. Would now like to go to introductions for the teams. Opening government, kindly let us know your team, and if you have any preferred pronouns, that would also be fine if you'd like to let us know.
Yuval speaking first, here they please. I don't know if this room is streamed, but if it is, then I consent to streaming.
Omer speaking second, your day also consent to stream.
Opening opposition.
This is the streaming room.
Yes.
Okay, I'm Denzel speaking first. No preferred gender pronouns. I'm okay with being streamed.
Hello, this is JF. I'm going to be speaking second. My gender pronouns would be she or hers, and I do not consent to screening. Thank you.
Closing government.
Daniela speaking first, he, him, I consent to be streamed.
Layla speaking second, she or hers, please. I consent to be streamed.
Closing opposition.
Chris will be speaking first, no preference, I consent.
Ennis will be speaking second, no preference pronouns, and I consent.
All right. Thank you very much for those prompt introductions. Please let us know how you'd like POIs.
You put yourself on mute.
Oh, sorry. I was saying that kindly let us know how you'd like POIs to be asked, and I'll be using the chat function for the timing. So please keep an eye on the chat. And yeah, without further ado, I'd like to welcome the Prime Minister to start the debate here.
Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent. 1 second, bringing a timer. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Money is not everything in life. We think that the most important things in life, like family, like friends, like being relatable to other people in your surrounding, like feeling connected to other people, are more important than that. And we think that you lose them at the point where you move to a new town, when you don't know anything about, where you don't have the same culture of them, where they're unlikely to accept you, when they're likely to bully your kids, and you're going to suffer there tremendously. 2 points in my speech. Firstly, why you're unlikely to assimilate into the richer culture in the richer town, and secondly, why you are likely to not succeed in that town and likely be fired, meaning that you'll have to come back, or on the comparative, you can probably get that higher paying job on our side of the house as well when you stay in your hometown. Sure, no need for a mechanism because you just stay. Okay, let's start with why you assimilate you are not going to assimilate in the richer culture. Firstly, it's important to analyze who you are likely. The info slide tells us that you have a wife and 2 kids and a baby. I think this makes it quite likely that you're probably in your mid-30s or something like that. That's the age at which people usually already have 3 kids, because they take some gaps between giving birth to those kids and that kind of stuff, right? It means that you probably also lived in your undeveloped place all the time. If you lived in another one, or a developed place, it's unlikely that you will want to move there, which means that you are already which means that you've lived there all your time, right? All of your life friends, probably from school or the people that you see constantly the day today around, are there. You probably also, the fact that you pay a low wage, that means that you probably don't have much education. You probably were raised in a poor family as well in that underdeveloped area. What does that mean on why you're unlikely to be able to assimilate in the culture? Firstly, because you don't really have these kind of rich people hobbies, that people that actually do have money to send their kids to extra curricular stuff have, right? You're unlikely to like play piano or stuff like that. You're unlikely to have like building hobbies or like the kind of stuff that the rich people are usually interested in that you're not. You're probably not that well educated in sophisticated topics like, I don't know, like complex societal politics or complex societal politics, or talking about, I don't know, how we are going to solve global warming and that kind of stuff, that people from a richer background that have more education and that have extra time which they don't need to work at, that have the free time to do that, are interested in. That's what they studied their whole life, right? You're likely to be perceived as poor at the point where your hobbies are ones that are probably hobbies like that are perceived with the poor. Like maybe you probably like going to bars and watching soccer with your pals and that kind of stuff. We think that these kind of things are much more perceived to be poor and are much more present in poor societies, right? What does that mean on why you're unlikely to find new friends? A couple of things there. Firstly, you probably don't have the same interests that as them, right? You're probably interested in different things like weird sports thingy and that kind of stuff, in which they are far less likely to be interested in, which means that you're unlikely to have like good conversation topics with them, right? We think that most friendships bond over the fact that people have good chemistry and be able to talk with each other. At a point where that area is much more has much more of a different culture, you're unlikely to be assimilated. Secondly, we tell you that you're perceived as stupid when you talk with other people. Maybe you have a low language, right? And you talk not in a high language that more educated people are likely to do so. You like sound ESL against EPLs that sound much more smarter than you because they have this impressive rhetoric, right? This means that both them perceive you as poor and not educated, or not someone worth talking to because society looks down at poor people, but also you yourself don't think that you are worthy of their interaction. You're unlikely to try and go to that interaction in the first place, right? Why is that true? Because firstly, we tell you that society has a very important like capitalistic value, that people are always pushed out to consumerism. If you can't participate in that, then you're not part of society, right? We are told that if you are poor, it's because of your choices, right? Which is why society looks down on poor people. You're unlikely to be making friends there, right? You yourself perceive yourself that way, which means that you're unlikely to even reach out in the first place, right? Notice that this means that you're very unlikely to be able to find new friends, to be able to connect with people there and get all that kind of stuff. But more importantly, the same analysis also applies to your wife and children. Why is this important? Because at the point where your children go to school, the other kids are going to perceive them as different, not the same as them. They don't have the same hobbies, and they don't have the same grades. They have lower grades, and they're unlikely to be able to find friends because kids want to find the ones that are different in order to bully them. That means that your kids are likely to suffer at school. The people aren't going to accept them. Not just that they're going to be bullied, but no one is going to want to be friends with them. They're going to just be miserable all the time. It also applies to your wife, which is not going to be able to have friends. You care about your family very, very much, and at this point, we don't think that you'll want to do that to them at the point where they have to move with you. I'll take CO now.
CO, yeah. Assuming it's classes to suggest that a blue collar worker does not know about global warming, how long would it even take to actually learn those things if it's necessary for him to fit in?
I don't think it's learnable, right? It's the way he grew up that way. People are going to look at him different. He already thinks that of himself as different. I don't know why tomorrow he's just going to be able to learn that. Maybe if he had high class friends or that kind of stuff, he would have been able to, but he wouldn't get them in the first place, so he's unlikely to be able to assimilate, right? Second thing we tell you is why he's likely to not succeed or actually be fired on like his first year or something. Firstly, thing you need to know though is that in order to be a managerial position, you need to be kind of good with people and to be able to give them instruction and for them to follow orders. At a point where you are perceived as inferior to them because they probably came from that rich background and you came from the poor background, they're unlikely to be able to want to do what you said. They think that, oh, I shouldn't do what he said because I shouldn't take orders from someone like him. But also you yourself feel uncomfortable telling them to do stuff, which means that you're likely to have your managerial job not succeed, right? And you won't be managed well. Maybe they took you because you had some great talent and on some other grounds that they thought they can bring you to a manager. Maybe you're good at your previous blue collar job. I think that many people that are good at blue collar jobs are promoted to managerial jobs. That doesn't mean that they're good at managing the managerial jobs. I mean that you're likely to not work out. You're likely to be burnt out, right? Because you're bored of your job, because you don't have social interactions, other things, because you miss your friends and family from your own homes. You're likely to not succeed there. You'll be overwhelmed by all of this hardship, right? This means that when it's so hard, you may be fired like after you because you don't do your job. But then it's so hard to get back because you already sold your house, because you already distanced yourself from your friends back home, and you're going to have such a hard time assimilating back. Look, for all of these reasons, this is terrible for both you, for your family. We are so proud to propose the motion.
Right, we thank that speaker for that speech. We now welcome the opposition leader to start the case of the opening opposition.
Hello, am I audible?
There's a lot of background music.
Yeah, so my neighbor is having a karaoke party, and like I don't know how to stop them, but like, is it too distracting or you
No,
can
no,
hear me
no. We
properly?
can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, nice. Oh, wait. Okay, so starting in 3, 2, 1, and go. If my family stayed in my province in the Philippines, I wouldn't be able to access my current university that allows me to join international debates and have a lot of options. And in doing so, I developed as a student and a debater because I have more options because my family moved to a more urban city, and things that I can access like healthcare and education that prior I can't because I can't in my province. For the betterment of the family situation, to open more opportunities for both the parents and child, and change the continued poverty that I have experienced as a blue collar worker, we will move, we will move, we will move, and the family must move. Two things in this speech. One, I will talk about the benefits and harms and then compare it to what the counterfactual looks like in opposition. But before that, a few rebuttals. So first, they told us that you cannot assimilate into the culture of Cyprus. We think that's okay because we think there are also middle class managerial workers who have the same situation as your family in the community, which means you can befriend them because they have the same experience as you. We don't think that Cyprus is a community that is only for the elites. We think that there are also families there that have the same situation as you, that has the same managerial position as you, and that you can relate to and that can befriend. Also, I think if the harm ever happens coming from OG, we think that the children and parents can just limit their interaction with the majority of Cyprus to gain money and have money to eat every day, for example, or to have savings that can provide for their child's education and healthcare. Or they can or I think that coming from OG, I think the harm of having to experience all this discrimination, we think that in our side of the house, the harm of not having to eat food is it's so much more harmful. We think that is something that you have to defend. Second, because you have more money now and you can be promoted, which means that this harm is only temporary and at the very first year, for example. We think that if you have more money, we think you're able to provide more, you can buy books, you can buy clothes that could help you into assimilating into the culture of Cyprus at the end of the day. Then they told us that you are not able to do well in the managerial position. First, this is so discriminatory. I think that the reason you are accepted is because you have the capability in the CV as a blue collar worker to work in the managerial position. That's why they gave you life benefits and higher pay, for example, because you deserve it. And I think that you can also learn to how to do this managerial position, for example. And we think that the experience you could gain is something that if you get fired here, we think that you can able to transfer to other jobs, for example, because you now have the experience that you get from this company. We think that's really possible. And we think that if you get fired, you won't go back to what was the to to Springfield anymore, because I think that you can find other jobs that could benefit you because you have the experience now. So going on, benefits of having money and opportunity. One, the geographic opportunity in Cyprus for the two kids. Notice that Cyprus is a richer district with better hospitals, better education, more opportunity, which means that the child in growing up has more ability to find better jobs because they have better education that you have provided. Secondly, more opportunity to access better education and better healthcare because then the offer has greater pay, life benefits like hospital waiver or leave that can make their healthcare available. This is important because the child can have more options for development and their development is not hampered in the process because you chose to stay as a blue collar job with only a minimum wage. Two reasons. In government, the hazard of having to stay in Springfield is that you might become sick because of the arduous and hard nature of blue collar jobs where from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. you have to carry a lot of heavy things, for example, and do strenuous jobs. And when that happens with the CISNIX, there is no access to healthcare because you only have minimum wage and little to no healthcare benefits. And because of that you became sick, for example, because of your job, all your savings would be depleted at the expense of your child's education. So we think that if you stay in government, the continued poverty will also transfer to the child, which is harmful. And the moment your children get sick, you're unable to pay and all the savings you had for their future is diminished. None, we think that's harmful because you're unable to pay for their college, you're unable to pay for their food. We think that you will experience abject pain in their side of the house because you see that your family is suffering because you didn't choose to go to Cyprus and sacrifice culture and friendship, for example. Secondly, life opportunity to get a promotion. The fulfillment of getting promoted is important to you as a worker because you gain abject happiness in the process because there is progress in your life and you feel like you are developing as a person at the end of the day, right? Because you are becoming better. Other people see you, for example, as a better person, for example, and you're able to do and give more payment. You're able to provide for your family better. And the fulfillment of being able to provide for your family's needs and wants, seeing them enjoy toys and games that you cannot give prior if you stayed in Springfield is something that gives you fulfillment and happiness because now you see them that you are able to provide for them so that you feel happiness as a father and you feel fulfilled as a father, and we think that pleasure is important. The comparative is if you have to stay as a blue collar worker who has to work hard like lifting, construction, and having to man packaging, this is hard, but you only get minimum wage and are unable to pay for the needs of your child. And because you have no opportunity to get promoted in that blue collar job, for example, your day becomes hard because you feel as a person you're not developing and your day-to-day is becoming gray, for example, is becoming dull because you're not moving up or you have no chance of getting promoted, which means you can never accrue the benefits. Lastly, more time for your family because you don't have to find two jobs because you want to feed your family or have to save for the child's college or pay for the needs of your family. Because if you only have minimum wage as a blue collar worker in Cyprus, for example, you think that isn't enough because it's only paying for the needs of your family and not paying for the college fees, for example, or the milk of the baby. We think that it's possible that if you stay, you have to find another job, for example, that also pays minimum wage. We think that's harmful because it's more strenuous and it is more likely that you'll get sick. And secondly, you are never there for the development of your child because you are always working from morning till midnight because you have to pay for their needs. That changes on our side of the house. When you have to work managerial positions, you can give your family vacation and other things. And notice that the moment you move up the ladder, you are less likely to work harder because now you have more capability to instruct or delegate your work to other people. So you have more time with your family, you have more ability to vacation using leaves, and because you have more ability to give your child the things that they need for development at the end of the day. We think that with all of those reasons, you have to get away from Springfield because that means that you are fulfilled as a blue collar worker. That means you are able to give for your family, for your children. You are able to give them better education, which leads to them having a better life in the future that is different from your starting point of being a blue collar job in Springfield. With all of those reasons, proud to oppose.
We thank that speaker for that speech. We now welcome the Deputy Prime Minister to continue the case of the government. Hear, hear.
Okay. I'm going to mostly talk about the comparative in this debate, what we are defending as a OG, what's our side. Later, I will speak about why stability is better than the speculativity benefits that we get on our side, and if I manage, why do we prefer our friends over the money? Now, firstly, few rebuttals. They say, look, you can, and also like COSPY say, look, you can learn these kind of things. You can learn how to assimilate in the rich people's society. While it's true that you can do it, if you will, it will take a lot of time, because as Yuval explained to you, it's hard for you to assimilate. When you see the other managers talking about their ski vacations, you can't join in. You're not likely to try to even join in this conversation. This way, you're getting left out. The second thing I want to say about it is that the managers that talk about that are probably with the same background as you are not likely to be a lot of them. Right? Social mobility is something that is not very common, especially not from from a poor town like Springfield to a place like Cyprus. And we are likely to have very little amount of these kind of people. Moreover, you can't really meet them because in your company, which is the people that you meet the most, because in the managerial position, you have to work a lot of hours. It actually means that that like one company is not likely to hire a lot of managers with this background, right? They are not building their managerial portfolio over people from like very poor cities. Now, the second thing that they tell us, look, in the current status quo, you see your family suffering. This is a brutal mischaracterization of the status quo. What is the status quo and why you probably have stability in it? At the point where you have two children and you decide to bring a third child to the world, you probably know that you can provide for it. You probably have already the parental responsibility, and you know what it takes to raise a child. You know that you can bring them what they need. Maybe they won't have iPhone 20X, and they will have like some other smartphone, a cheaper smartphone. Maybe they won't go into tennis practices or stuff like that, but they can live a happy and a modest life on their own. Moreover, in the comparative, it is very likely that this person, let's call him Homer, will probably get a promotion in the future. Why is it so? Because he's a very experienced worker, probably, and this is the kind of worker that you promote to be in a major position inside Springfield as well, right? This is only the first opportunity that he had. There will probably be more in the future. The second thing is that the company perceived him as successful enough to bring him to manage in the rich city. So probably they do perceive him as good enough to manage in Springfield, which is like, you probably need less to manage this kind of work. It's probably a little less earning job, but it still earns a lot more than what he earns now. Now, and then the last thing, a lot of other people, because he got this offer, probably perceive him as smarter. Maybe he won't get the promotion in his job, but he's likely to get it in other companies, in other jobs in Springfield, where so the comparative we talk about is A, stability, and B, a lot of chances of succeeding. Now, why do we care a lot about stability? We care. Oh, I'm sorry. The second thing I want to say about it, about the fact that he's able to learn it, is that even if he doesn't learn it, even if it takes a lot of time for him to learn, for his children and his wife, it takes a lot more time to do it because they don't have the interactions that he has, and because of that, he's afraid for suffering more. Now, why do we prefer the stability that he has currently over the speculative benefits? Because in your current situation, you know that it will be okay. You know that, I don't know, like the characterization that they bring to you that you will get sick and won't be able to provide is not very likely. You know that your children have friends. You know that they have people that support them. You know that your wife has friends that loves them. In the other side, you really don't know what happened. You think that, and also like you feel that you might fail there. you might succeed, but you might fail. And at that point, you don't get this kind of stability there. Now, the second thing that you are afraid that if you will fail, your family and your wife and your children will resent you for it, because they had the life that they loved before. They had the friends that they loved. They have the people that they cared about in the other place. They had a perfectly good life before. And now you brought them just to fail. And in that way, I don't know, as your children will see it, you ruin their life. This is something that, as a person who is a blue-collar worker and probably gets a lot of his happiness from his family, this is something that's very important to you. You don't want the chance of losing it. Well, or else on our comparative, they probably really love you currently, and you're afraid of losing it. The third thing I would say is that the benefits you probably think they will come in your future as well, both because you're optimistic and both because of the rational analysis that I gave you why your future will be better. Now, why do we prefer our friends over money? Because money is only a mean to get happiness. Right? If you want your child to get that education, it's only because you want him to have a happy life. When you know, as you grew your whole life and you judge yourself by the others around you, you probably have the perception that you don't really need the money to be happy, because you're happy with your life because you're happy with your life, and you know that you can achieve this happiness not through money but through friends. You love your friends, they've been to you in sickness and in health, and you think that you will lose it. This is something that's very important to you. You're not likely to get it. So moreover, you probably judge yourself in comparison to the people around you. So in the status quo, when the people around you don't have a lot of money and you don't have a lot of money, you probably don't suffer from it so much. So but you do know the feeling of having friends. So having less friends will make you more suffering in comparison to having less money, which is what you're used to already. Since we proved to you that stability is something that you get on our side and not on opposite, and you get more chance of having friends, which is something more important to you, I call you to support this motion. Thank you.